Okay, good. Your immediate neighbor can use the same microphone you have.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Dilys Ndivisa is my name, and I work with the Ecological Christian Organization.
Okay, welcome.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Christine Batusa. I work with Emily. Emily's Environmental Management for Livelihood Improvement. I want to thank you all for turning up for this meeting. And my expectation is that we get away with a clear roadmap on how we finalize the regulations for establishing the district environment and natural resource committees. Thank you.
Anna and her immediate neighbor didn't tell us the expectations. So you have a retake. Please handle it immediately. No, now, right now, before we move to the next. Give them the microphones so that we get to know the expectations from today's meetings.
I'm looking forward to knowing the status of the regulations because I've been part of the process with the rest of the team.
Okay.
I'm looking towards steps in finalizing these regulations.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, moderator. This is Stephen Opio, working with Minister of Water and Environment in the Climate Change Department. I presume everyone here knows what the Climate Change Department does. It is not new to the stakeholders in this room. My expectation is to get to know the new roadmap, analyze it, and see if it will really bring to the completion of this regulation. Thank you.
Thank you. You're most welcome.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sherry Namita from the Climate Change Department, Minister of Water and Environment. I expect to also understand the state of the regulations and the way forward to bring it to its finalization. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kemigisha Edna, and I am associated with the Ministry of Water and Environment under the Climate Change Department. And my expectation is to get to know the regulations and meaningfully contribute to the finalization of the regulations.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Noel Nangira. I'm a state attorney with Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. My participation here today, I hope to be able to understand the status of the regulations, identify gaps that could be within the regulations, and to help to move towards the finalization. Thank you.
Okay. You keep us in check to make sure we don't violate the Constitution, these regulations. Okay, next.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Fauza Namkuve. I work with the Ministry of Water and Environment. And my expectation is that the roadmap we're going to come up with is not too long to reach the finalization of this. Talking about this basing on the duration it has taken to come to this. Thank you.
Right, you're welcome.
Morning, everyone. My name is Anthony Ulimbo. I work for the Climate Action Network, Uganda. And my expectation first is to, it's the first time I'm interacting with the regulations, so I want to understand what exactly they are, what content is there, but also try to understand how they relate to other regulatory processes, because there are quite a number of regulations which are being made in line with the laws in the sector. So I want to understand how these ones will also relate to the others and their impact.
They have a mic.
Yes, good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Morning.
My name is Sengo Valida. I'm a journalist and also working with HUMNET, which is the Water and Environment Media Network. I wish to learn about the new regulations. Yes, we should get from it.
All right, next.
Good morning. My name is Ephraim Kasozi. I work with WEMNET. I'm a journalist.
We agreed that we shall minimize use of abbreviations.
Water and Environment Media Network.
Okay.
I'm a journalist and team leader. My expectation is to learn how the regulations will affect the local person in terms of conservation.
Okay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
I'm called Alex Atuiziche. I work for the Anti-Corruption Coalition Uganda, abbreviated as ACU. My expectation today from this meeting is to understand the stakeholders who are involved in developing these guidelines and also to get to know the target audience. Because when you mention the District Natural Resource Committee, when you move to some district, right now they don't have those committees. So I want to get to know the end users or the target audience for these regulations. Thank you.
Okay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Boomba MacDonald, not the food, but the Scottish one. I am representing Mr. Hamba Richard, who is the ED of Teens Uganda, that is training, education, empowerment, Uganda. But I'm also a board member of Shelter and Settlements Alternatives. NEMA has been a good network member of Shelter and Settlements. I'm also a member of Roots, Running Out of Trees. That's an initiative by the Ministry of Water and Environment. So I'm glad I'm hearing people from the ministry. I am from Buganda Kingdom, from the organizing committee when it comes to organizing the national events under Roots. I welcome you all. My expectations are very clear. I want to draw a line between expectations and realities. So sometimes when we are in workshops, we have beautiful expectations, but the reality is, as we work with the districts, I want to see some things moving. You know what has been happening in the country. Things are moving very fast. So as these things are moving, you know, climate change, you hear people from climate change, things are tough. We might want to enjoy life today, but you might build your mansion tomorrow and it is very hot. The sewer is so stinking. So as we look at the expectations, I also want to see the realities are not only 10%, but the realities are almost 70%. The things are definitely working out there and projects are definitely working. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Rachel's table. There's a microphone right there next to you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Kasaija Rachel with Environmental Alert, working in the capacity of the Networks Coordinator, specifically the Environment and Natural Resources Civil Societies Organizations Network. Having just recently returned to the ENR sector, I'm looking forward to refamiliarizing myself what this process is all about, getting to know who the stakeholders are, the key players. Yes, that's it for me.
All right, thank you.
Kimboa Richard. I work with Uganda Coalition for Sustainable Development, but also I'm the chair of the Renewable Energy CSO Network. One expectation, first of all, to understand the process. I've never interfaced with this, so I hope this process will allow us as a jointly to input into these draft regulations, if I understand it right. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Eunice Asinguza, and I work for NEMA. Formerly, I was the Legal and Corporate Affairs Manager. They have now changed our titles, and I'm an Assistant Commissioner in charge of Legal and Corporate Affairs. I'm happy to be in this room. When I came, I went to sit the other side, but when I saw him, I had now to come closer to him because we have to sort out a lot of things in this meeting, including when this regulation is likely to get concluded.
Okay.
Yeah, that is my expectation. We have to set clear timelines because this regulation is very, very urgent. It is needed. Yes, I'm happy to be in a room where FPC is. She represents FPC, and modalities have changed. The former Attorney General, you'd allow me to call him that because now we don't have cabinet, would require that we do produce evidence of consultation. I hope the papers, the videos, and everything is going to be kept because at a later time, I'll be required to present all that. I'm happy to see Environmental Shield in court. He has kept us on our toes. Even as of yesterday, he sued the institution together with Greenwatch and all the civil society organizations. When you sue us, we don't take you as our enemy. No, you're not our enemy. You keep us in check. Yes, when things are not going right, you're like, look here, there's a red flag.
Okay.
So I'm happy to engage today, and I look forward to a really fruitful engagement. Dr. Biakagaba, we've worked together. This is another
Clearing.
Yes.
People think I'm independent.
No.
Go ahead.
No. He has largely contributed. He's done some good work to do with the environmental practitioners regulations that we are really happy with. We are only constrained by finances. Otherwise, that is also a very important regulation that we should spearhead and conclude. If you give me another, maybe I will speak and speak, but let me allow my boss actually, Mr. or Dr. Bachika to introduce himself.
Good morning, and thank you, Councillor Eunice, for the compliments. My name is Robert Bachika. I have two jobs. One job is to facilitate intergovernmental coordination between Finance, Ministry of Water, and National Planning Authority on matters of NDCs. The other job is to advise Emily on its operations. And Emily, like my colleague said, it's environmental management for livelihood improvement, Boise facility. Happy to be here.
All right, welcome, Robert. I think on this side, there are people who didn't introduce themselves. The rules are very easy. Mention your name, organization, and your expectations.
Thank you. My name is Rita Chategeka. I bring you greetings from the management of WWF. We are happy to continue partnering with Emily to ensure that things happen. So thank you so much, Emily, for being our torchbearer in these policy and legal frameworks affairs. And we pledge our continued support. I think they've already told you that this is a newer program with newer funding, so the money will keep coming. Thank you.
Okay, Rita, you have to tell us what WWF
It is the Worldwide Fund for Nature. It is a conservation organization. We love saying that we are the leading conservation organization in the world, existing in over 100 countries.
That's why you're called World. Yeah. Okay. Next.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
You may have to draw your microphone close. Thank you.
My name is Kamala Ram. I am a legal officer with NEMA. I'm glad to be with you, ladies and gentlemen. One of my expectations today, the expectations may be many, but majorly is to listen and get to know what different stakeholders, what different entities know about this regulation. Thank you.
All right. I think there's some Emily people who have not. Christine did mention her name. Your immediate neighbor that you're engaging.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Vaida Lubo. I work with Emily, that is environmental management for livelihood improvement. Okay. I'm here to understand the status of the regulations.
Status. There's this team here that has, I don't know whether they've sought your consent, but they take your pictures, and Eunice has already mentioned that she wants evidence that you have been consulted. So can we all assume that you have consented to what they are doing? They can talk, but we shall give them an opportunity to speak at some stage. We're now going to get into the formalities, the welcome remarks. Robert, in your remarks, maybe and Eunice, at some stage, as a moderator, I will request you to share with us the spirit of having these stakeholder engagements when you're crafting regulations. What's the spirit behind? Not the objective per se, but the spirit behind having stakeholder engagements when you're crafting regulations. And also in your remarks, Robert and Eunice, if you get an opportunity, to be nice to see what kind of dividends do we expect from having these regulations in place. And I have reasons as to why I'm raising this. We have certain parts of the law, certain sections that require regulations, and nobody is saying anything. But these particular ones, we are very much interested. So it would be nice to see why we have prioritized regulations to operationalize this, the section that provides for Natural Resources Committee in our districts. So Robert, that's the challenge when you invite a person whose work is to teach or to be an instructor. He keeps raising questions for you. So in the unlikely event that you are not prepared to address those questions, you have Eunice right behind you to support you. Please come and welcome us formally, and we go to the next activity of this session.
Okay. Good morning and welcome once again to our engagement today. I want to repeat my name. My name is Robert Bachika. I have been struggling with environment governance since 2007, and our struggle has never ended. And today, we are happy to have this strategic engagement with NEMA and others on aspects of a regulation which is interesting, a regulation cutting across two key laws. One of the laws is the National Environment Act. Actually, Muhinda and team, you need to remind people, I really feel irritated when people call it the NEMA Act. I really feel irritated. And then the National Climate Change Act. These two laws have one of the elements in common, that they are using the same structures on matters of decentralized governance. Now, when you have two laws reinforcing each other and then ensuring that they serve the purpose intended, then it is always in good spirit to ensure that when these laws are being implemented, the institutions that are supposed to enforce them talk to each other. And to us as Emily, when we were participating in the reforms of the National Environment Act, one of the things we really opt and try to advocate through the ENRCSO network, which we started in 2009, was to ensure that the citizens have a key role to play and the civil society is not left out. As things continue to move, we noticed that perhaps the colleagues we gave the mandate to continue represent our voices might have ended up not completing this task. So the National Environment Act came out as it is, and I can't speak about it because we have the brains behind it. Our work on that act was simple, was to ensure we put the views we collected from a number of you. And at least at the greatest extent, most of the views we passed on to NEMA were really integrated. I recall those good days when we work with Eunice, the current judge, I think Lady Justice Christina Akelo, and my late and my friend, the late Tom Okrut. That put aside, there's a law which came between that period, and that's the National Climate Change Act, where I want to say that we really put a lot of our views still to ensure that the opinions we had could also find their way. With the current law, I stand to be corrected, the Sovereignty Act. So if we do such advocacy, I don't know whether it will not be criminal. But the beauty was we wanted to see a nexus where environment and climate could connect and ensure that the two can reinforce each other, because we are all looking at sustainable development. We managed to get also the wins we saw, but I want to thank the ministry and parliament. One of the things the ministry emphasized, let's not create new structures. Let's use existing structures. We had proponents among our colleagues, civil society, who wanted a climate change commission. I remember Anthony and a certain team of big organizations wanted a climate commission. We fought for 2 years among civil society to convince ourselves why a commission is bad or good than an institution within the ministry. That was the spirit of constructive engagement. And I hope we continue to use that same spirit. In this project, the Together for People and Planet, like you have heard from Rita from WWF, our partners, we are looking at ensuring 2 key words: equity and governance. Prof is here, is the lecturer for environmental governance, environmental law. But these 2 words, equity and governance, are so strong that when I was trying to follow up a family matter in court, one of the things I really put before the judge was I'm here for equitable sharing of my father's property. And the judge lectured so much on why equity should be something families should look at. We are not equal, as all of you know. We have big organizations, we have small organizations, we have communities, we have indigenous peoples whom we have refused to recognize in our laws. We have adjacent communities who are gatekeepers of our natural resources. But how do you ensure that all these play a key role in natural resource management? How do you ensure that these institutions we have given power and mandate to serve us are held accountable when you start running in some institutions, that's when you understand that follow-ups versus ignorance is really a tapestry for problems. During the 4 years we have been in the family division of the High Court, we have learned that a lot of families lose property because of ignorance. That's the same thing TOP is trying to do through Emily, is ensuring that these laws we put in paper, the communities and the users of natural resources get to know what they do and what is their role. And in that, we can't claim to be the drivers. And that tells you the name of the project Emily is implementing, that we are catalyzing. We are just one of the players in this large field of climate and environment governance. Like I've said, there are so many institutions, there are so many players, but how do you ensure the resource all of us are trying to get our lives from is there indefinitely or used sustainably, but also respect the ignorant, that is the users, and the duty bearers or the authorities which manage these resources. We have seen confrontations, we have seen arrests. Sometimes I feel offended when you go to someone who even does not understand between a regulation and a policy and explaining all these terminologies for them to really understand. But as you know, civil society continue to do its role, its hands are tied. Resources are one of the key limitations. And we are so grateful to the support from WWF and also trusting us to be a partner in this course, because we believe that if we can propel civic compliance, then using enforcement. I know Ugandans are stubborn people. You cannot just tell them, don't step in the grass. But I always believe that natural resource law and management requires some civic work, especially continuous education. We used to have big radio programs with NEMA and other entities, reminding people about environment, that even our parents knew the very basic role why to manage and save environment, why you don't need to live in a wetland. But today, as we have made environment compliance a bit lethal, then we are seeing rising impunity. And then you're wondering, why is it that when we have environment police, we have patrols, we have wildlife wardens and so forth, poaching is increasing, wetland encroachment is increasing. Are we trying to show each other who is stronger? And then you end up seeing that things are really getting a bit messy. So what are we looking at through this project? And we look forward through these regulations, for example, which are being crafted. We have a very beautiful law, very comprehensive Environment Act. And we think that if we would do more work to inform the public, to make sure we get champions in the public who can propel these good environment practices, we can win a quite significant section of the society than really using only the iron hand. We can do both and then invest more. I really believe that if we would continue to make our communities understand, turn these jargons, complex environment terms, climate terms, into terminologies communities can understand, we will have self-compliance. And that self-compliance will have lasting solutions. So that said, I'm not the speaker of the day, but my work is simple, is to say we are so grateful to have you, and we look forward on ways how we can define clear steps on how we are going to make this regulation a regulation to guide our districts, because all of us, whether you are in which agency or which organization, you have grassroots. You have a village you come from, in a particular parish, in a particular sub-county, and in a particular district. So you can be a star at national level, but when your district is one of the districts which is having very few surviving natural resources, yet you are the best environment advocate we have in the country. So we are trying to ensure that we balance this and we use the law in a way where we can propel compliance and see that our resources are there for our generations. So that said, I want to take this honor through you, moderator, to, before inviting NEMA to make their remarks, but to invite our partner, the World Wide Fund for Nature, the Uganda Country Office. Oh, I do it on her behalf. Okay, she will see how to prepare it from there. So I want to hand over the mic to her, because I was only framing on the guidance that you provided. So thank you so much, and I wish you good deliberations.
You see, you did mention that there is money, and that's why Robert insists that you should say something. So you can just use that microphone. When you tell people there is money, they think you're going to say more. So please say hello, at least tell us greetings from your director or country director. Is that the right title now? Yeah. And then we go to the next activity.
Thank you. I had already said that we are currently implementing our new strategic plan 2026-2030, and all the issues that the ED has spoken to are alluded in that plan. So I want to implore you all to come and partner with us. It's still very fresh, and we have a lot of work to do, and we cannot do it alone. So yes, we are still calling on partners who have these unique ways of working so that we deliver a Uganda where nature and people thrive. Maybe what the ED forgot to say is that the funding that has been supporting this work is coming from the generous people of Sweden and Denmark. They have been very, very consistent. So that's why year in, year out, when others are crying about donations and donor funding, for us, we are happy. So we are very thankful to them. Yes, and we really just look forward. Maybe Idi, what they've also not told you is that this program is going to be officially launched in 2 weeks' time, and we are expecting our partners from these countries to come, and we hope that everyone else in this room will be part of it. So thank you so much, and we wish you good deliberations.
Okay, thank you, Rita. Everyone, including government institutions like the one where Eunice works, are welcome. Eunice, can you use 2 or 3 minutes to respond to my request? The spirit of having this regulation in the, or it will be part of your presentation. I want people to go for break tea, having an idea why do we want to prioritize these regulations? And why should we have them very quickly, like yesterday? would be nice for you to come this side such that I make it easy for this lady and her team. If you need any special treatment, we can give you 2 minutes. I'm told these cameras, for men, they don't care, but for ladies, they're always caring on how they look when they are using these cameras.
Thank you, Doctor. I'm happy to be here. No wonder I had to set aside everything that I was doing so that I come and be here with everyone. My colleague from WWF, we welcome the initiative. Before I give my remarks, I extend the appreciation for funding this very regulation. And I request that before the funders come on board, kindly brief them that the Norwegian government, under the program for oil for development program, by then funded this law, and they funded the subsequent review of regulations, quite a number of them. So we would like to have them on board to invite them to fund the subsequent regulations, which have been lined up for review for a long, long time. Yes, there are many, there are quite many, and we are handicapped. Yes, as a country, yes, because they funded entirely. This law took a lot of money and the subsequent regulations. And now those that are remaining, which I actually think that you're going to help me do, they're also quite many. So he would be handy, he would really play an important role in the development of actually the review and alignment of the subsequent regulations. Why is this regulation very, very important? I am very sure that all of us are conversant with the NEA. We call it the National Environment Act. Please do not mistake it as the NEMA Act. No, they are not lawyers. Actually, even judges. I've heard some judges call it the NEMA Act. It is not the NEMA Act. It is the National Environment Act, which actually won an international recognition. They said that we have the best laws around. Today, actually, I would invite you to concur with me on that, because I know you read. Yes, yeah, you know, he's the one who follows us really on each and everything that we do as an institution. So this regulation is anchored under this act, specifically under Section 27 and Section 28. As you're well aware, environmental governance in this country is decentralized. Many of the roles lie with the lead agencies as stipulated for under Section 11 of the National Environment Act. Now, when you come to Section 27 of the National Environment Act, it stipulates the composition of the natural resource committees. Those are the people that have an important mandate to supervise, to regulate whatever is in their docket at the district level. The committee is composed of the chairperson, members of the district, the resident district committee, the secretary, the chief administrative officer, the district engineer, the town clerk, and mayor, and everyone. It goes along to provide under Section 27, subsection 3, that the minister shall, by statutory instrument, prescribe the procedures of the District Environment and Natural Resources Committee. Now, when you go to Section 28, there are clear roles of this committee, including, by the way, the formulation of ordinances and bylaws. I know we have many partners in this room. That is a role that we initially used to spearhead at the institution when we still had NEF. Before NEF, that is the National Environment Fund, was relocated to the central government. Yes. We used to get funds to do these ordinances and bylaws at the district and sub-county level, respectively. And I would invite the partners to really collaborate with us on that. Why? Because we have a new government now, the new regime. These councillors have to be trained on formulation of the ordinances and bylaw. It is one of the sticky issues that I've really pressed because I've been in NEMA long enough to know the importance of these ordinances and bylaws, especially at those levels. So this law comes into place to prescribe the procedures of the district environment and natural resource committee to really set up the modus operandi or how they will be functioning. But most importantly, I realized that we didn't include the NEF component, Mr. Mhindo. Yes, the NEF component was not included in. The NEF component is provided for under Section 33 of the National Environment Act, whereby the 70% of the fund contained in the National Environment Fund shall be reserved and allocated to lead agencies as a conditional grant. And then the 50% shall be allocated to lead agencies and utilized for restoration activities. I think in order to tie this provision under the regulation, it would be very good to have it in there. Why? Because we have already drafted the National Environment Fund regulations, and they have been cleared by First Parliamentary Council, and they were sent to Finance for clearance. And we are very positive that they are going to clear, and then we shall have this law or regulation effected, and we shall have these percentages allocated to lead agencies for implementation. So as we come up with this regulation, members, let us also be mindful about that provision and the essence of even putting it under this regulation. Why? Because these district people take a lot of time. By the time they prescribe their own maybe ordinance on how to deal with these conditional grants, it will be too late. And we don't want to send the 70% to lead agencies and it gets redundant the other side. So we should be mindful about that. James is spearheading the regulation at the National Environment Management Authority. And when it comes to the other regulations, there are other people that are spearheading. Why? Because that is the kind of training that I got. I worked under the judge, the current judge, Christina Kello, and I would spearhead a regulation and other people would also spearhead other regulations. So for this very regulation, don't look for any other person. It is Mr. James Mhindo. Yes, currently in docket and handling this. And we are very positive that maybe by end of this year, let us give it the end of this year to have this regulation out. We shall have a minister to assign to it by then, and we shall have done all the work, and FPC, since they are in the room, they'll have cleared it, and we shall have this law. It is very, very important. Yes, actually there are 3 pending laws that are extremely important. This is one of them. The other is the practitioners regulations. Yes. And the third is noise. Now, we concluded noise, but we've had noise regulations. We've beefed up that law. You're benefiting from this information because you're here. Yeah, we concluded the review and alignment of that regulation. But you know, the vibration component was originally not in that regulation. And we had to put it in there because of the work in the Graben region, the oil and gas. The work there is comprehensive and it includes vibration. The vibration components are affecting the national parks and even these mushrooming buildings that you're seeing around. They have the vibration component. So the parameters to do with the vibrations are the ones that are tying in a little bit because we haven't yet agreed with the with that department under Ministry of Energy. Is it called seismic? Something like that. Yes. Yes. Yeah, but soon we shall have to send it to FPC, who actively participated in coming up with these stringent parameters because people are tired of noise. Yes. So when you invite me here to tell you about this regulation, I give a holistic, and allow me for that. And with that, Professor, allow me to end there. James will take on the other mantle and he's ready and set for it. I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Eunice, for also indicating that there are many regulations that need to be worked on. I also have an interest in a particular regulation, but I do agree we have a very good law. We need to congratulate ourselves, particularly if you go to Section 4 that provides for the rights of nature to exist. There are not many countries that commit to provide that right, but we don't have a regulation that defines which areas would invoke that particular right. So it's a bit difficult for me to take you to court for violating the right of nature to exist when we don't have regulations. I'm not in any way asking Rita to prioritize that one, but in the unlikely event that you don't, it's also another useful regulation. I know there are people who came here very early and probably they are struggling to concentrate due to low sugar levels, and I'm one of them. So we're going to change our program a little bit. We shall, Secretariat, is the tea coffee for free or we are paying for it? Okay, excellent. And there's no hierarchy. It depends on how needy you are in terms of energy. Are we going to have it from here? Okay. And we don't need any person to serve us. We can serve ourselves. Okay. So we shall have coffee or tea, or whichever choice you make for the next 15 to 20 minutes, and then we reconvene for the presentations. Okay, as we feel free, is there anyone who would like to say something before we have the coffee or tea that I missed, or who has just joined us? Okay. Who? This, we are serving ourselves. Okay. You want to say something? Okay. Okay. Which native language do you speak in Uganda? Okay. What's biodiversity in any of those? Okay. So as you take your coffee, consult to find out. You can ask Eunice, who speaks one of those, to find out what you call biodiversity in Runyankole Ruchig, such that you indeed localize it for us to appreciate. And the neighbor also speak, Muhinda doesn't speak Runyankole Ruchig. Okay. That's on the assumption that your languages are growing to add these new words. Okay, let's have the coffee or tea. I'm told we can serve ourselves. Secretary to support this process too, such that we salvage the time we lost. Anna, you want to leave that? We are going to have what they call working tea. Doesn't mean the tea is working, but we work while taking tea. Okay? Kristen, are you ready to make your submission? You can come with your cup. It should be okay. Anthony, I haven't said you get another cup. Okay, but you can still get it. You can still get it. Okay. So let's listen to Kristen to take us through the journey they've gone through to get to where we are before we delve into the regulations themselves.
We are ready, Kristen. Yes, I'm waiting for the presentation to be projected. So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As we wait for the IT to project, mine is going to be a brief one, just to show you the contribution that Emily and WWF have done to contribute to these regulations. The District Environment and Natural Resource Committee's regulation. First, we want to extend our appreciation to WWF for the support that they have given Emily over the years and up to date to implement efforts around proper environmental governance, contributing to awareness raising, but also enabling the different stakeholders to occupy spaces to be able to influence decision making related to environmental issues. I don't know why the presentation is not coming, but do I have a pointer? Okay, so this is it is an overview of the past Emily and WWF contribution to the development of the regulations. We can go to the next slide. In this presentation, we are going to understand who Emily is, the roles of Emily, then what are the perspectives for the next 5 years, and also the background of these regulations, and then we shall see how the two partners have contributed to the process. You can please proceed. Our vision is an empowered health and self-sustaining community that focuses on forms and processes of sustainable development and meets the needs of the vulnerable people. Then the mission is to improve the standards of living of the most vulnerable people by ensuring sustainable livelihoods. So all the work that we are doing, we are targeting the vulnerable groups of people, and we are aiming at them having sustainable livelihoods because we know that it is the environment that serves us and also acts as a source of our livelihood. Then our core values, we have gender sensitivity, we have environmental consciousness, neutrality, transparency, and then accountability. The role of Emily, working with the different partners and also members, because Emily, we have different member organizations that we work with. We work on environment and climate-related issues, from ecosystems, chemicals and waste, to governance and extreme weather events, to income security. So this is coined in 5 core programs that we implement. One being climate change, environmental governance, ecosystem and environment, chemicals and waste, and also livelihood. So all the work we do that is related to influencing national policies, regional and global, is under these 5 core programs, and the aim is to improve the livelihoods of the most vulnerable people as we tackle the different aspects of climate and also environment issues. What we want to do in the next 5 years, our priority areas, our focus is fixing climate and environmental policies and laws, accounting for obligations under the MEAs. And this informs one of the this strategic meeting. Then reforming the financing and incentives that are harmful to nature, broadening awareness. You've heard the speakers highlighting that education is very important if we want the public to comply. So we need to raise their awareness through education on the different aspects. So that is one of our focus in the next 5 years. Then also catalyze investment for climate action, because we cannot implement without the means of implementation. So it is something that we consider very critical as we move forward. We continue. The background of the District Environment and Natural Resource Committees, like you had NEMA say, we have environment and natural resource management as an important component of decentralized governance in Uganda. So this is where the districts are charged with managing and implementing environment-related actions at that lower level. Then we have the National Environment Act that you had Robert alluding to, where Section 27 mandates the district to establish these committees. Now I know you know the committees that I mean. And also Section 27(3) of the Act also mandates the minister to prescribe the procedures of this District Environment and Natural Resource Committee. But despite this legal mandate, most districts, like I heard from one of the participants, they do not have these environment committees because of the challenges that we found out. And also to address this, WWF has extended support to help us collaborate with NEMA to complement government effort to rally behind the different stakeholders to have their input into these processes to ensure that we have the guidelines or the regulations that can support the districts moving forward to establish these committees. So it is from that background that we are actually working on this process. And the roles of these committees are to coordinate environmental management activities, then also prepare the district environment action plans, to integrate environmental concerns into their development projects, and also prepare the district state of environment reports, to enforce ordinances and bylaws, disseminate environmental information, and collaborate with NEMA to enhance environmental governance. So these are the roles of the committees. But because these committees are not in place, that means that there is a gap. So this justifies why WWF is supporting these processes to ensure that some of these gaps are closed once we have this guiding framework, legal framework, to the districts to enable them to establish these committees and be able to handle their respective legal roles. So how have we contributed to the process? We began with the surveys and also stakeholder consultations to document the experiences, successes, challenges, and lessons learned. Because we know there are existing district committees, so we wanted, before we have these environment committees established, what are the successes of those that are already existing so that they can be upscaled? And then what are the challenges so that we do not repeat the same mistakes? And from those surveys and consultations, key recommendations were made. The major one being establishing clear regulations. Because as we interacted with the districts, they kept saying that we do not have the guidelines. So we do not know who nominates the members on these committees. We don't know how this committee should be composed, and this has to be clearly outlined in the regulations. So it came up as a very key recommendation that needed an action that WWF support is actually meeting. Then, to be specific, we also facilitated stakeholder consultations involving district leaders, the technical officers, particularly from the districts highlighted in the Western region and also the Central region. That is Mitoma, Rubirizi, Chisoro, Bushenyi, Wakiso, Kasese, and Luweru. And also we had some civil society organizations, the media, of course, NEMA, and also the Ministry of Water and Environment. So from the people who wanted to understand who should contribute to these processes, we've already had consultations with some of the districts that have contributed to the draft regulations that are to be presented today. We can proceed. Then from that, we also contributed to the development of the policy briefing paper, highlighting the stakeholder proposals and recommendations. These recommendations were generated from the surveys and also the stakeholder consultations, and these were shared with NEMA to inform the final version of the draft regulations that will be presented to us today. Of course, now the drafting team, that is when we had a drafting sessions with NEMA to validate what is in the regulations and also to see how to integrate the input from the different stakeholders. Then we also raised awareness about the NIA and the draft regulations. So in all the processes we've done, we've been raising awareness on the mother regulations that mother act that provides for the establishment of, for the formulation of these regulations and also for the establishment of the committees. I remember when we were in Barara, we disseminated some copies of the NIA, of the simplified version. I think they were translated in Runyachitara. Yeah, yeah. It wasn't Runyankole, it was Runyoro. Yeah, it was Runyoro, yes. So some copy, actually, so some copies were disseminated, and all this is contributing to awareness. We can proceed. So as I indicated that we came up with a policy briefing paper that we shared with NEMA for their initial input into the draft regulations. These were some of the stakeholder recommendations in that briefing paper. One is to provide for participation and feedback mechanisms, whereby the regulations should provide space for dialogue and reflection among stakeholders. Of course, key that were highlighted include the civil society, the private sector, and also the academia. Other people might raise other stakeholders that should not miss. We still have a window to that. Then integrate lower local government environment and natural resource committees. So this is crucial for effective environmental management at that lower level because they will assist the committee to fulfill their functions. Then ensure accountability mechanism, the reporting mechanism. Some people were even proposing having a template of how the reporting is done. Then include dispute and conflict resolution mechanism to ensure fair and effective handling of the disputes. All these were recommendations that were raised by stakeholders. And then specify the funding sources for committees. I know this has been highlighted on from the previous speaker from NEMA regarding the NEF. So we want to see which window actually supports the committees, because the main challenge as we interacted with them was that they do not have the funding, and this had stalled most of the engagements with the existing district committees. Those that we found meeting, they were meeting because they got some funding from either some partners or donors, and without them, they could not meet. So it is very key that we specify the funding sources to the committees. Let this meeting discuss how this can be integrated, because we know it is a key means on how we can support the operationalization, because it is one thing to have the regulations and it is another thing to have the committees established, but then having them doing their function, it is something that needs to be supported with finance, but also supported with technical kind of backstopping from the relevant institutions. That's all. I want to thank you so much.
They might have some quick questions or comments. You have any quick comment?
Oh, but maybe before that, I can do a rejoinder with the top, how it is carrying on from. There is another presentation on top, how it is carrying on from where we've stopped. The IT, please. From where we are and how we are moving forward to support the process to ensure that we have the regulations ready and also support the district to establish some of the committees, some district to establish these committees. So like Rita indicated, we have funding from CEDA through WWF to support the project Together for People and Planet. It is a project of 3 years, and EMIR is one of the implementing partners. And for us, our core component under that project is on environmental governance. And the major output is to have these committees in place and also ensure that the regulations are finalized, awareness is created on the different legal frameworks to support proper environment management at that level. So what we are presenting is just for you to see the objective, the activities, and also the core outputs. Okay, you can skip that. Skip. 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 Okay, so this, as I have indicated, Emily is an implementing partner to the Together for People for Planet. It is called TOP in short, and it is funded by CEDA through WWF. It is a 3-year project. And the rationale, it is because of the weak implementation of environmental governance coupled with weak enforcement or coordination. So the committees is, establishing the committees is one of the platform to foster coordination on environmental issues. Then also civil society face barriers to influence due to limited technical capacity and also access to decision-making spaces. So this project will ensure that we bring together civil societies in policy spaces, also decision-making spaces, to be able to influence the different policy issues. So the project addresses these gaps by strengthening civil society capacity and influence, promoting the participation of the different stakeholders to advance inclusive, rights-based, and climate-resilient natural resource governance. The project objective is to enhance civic space. You heard Robert emphasizing this in environmental governance for more inclusive, just, and sustainable natural resource management, specifically to strengthen civil society policy influence in governance of natural resources, build capacity of civil society to engage in policy spaces and advocacy, and also promote participation. So this meeting serves as one of the platforms for your participation in some of these processes. We can proceed. I hope you're all able to see from wherever you're seated. So the project objectives and expected outputs under the second objective, the core activity there is to facilitate the establishment of CSO hubs and networks to review action plans. That is why we have representatives of the different networks in this meeting. Then the core output is that we want to have an updated action plan for hubs. So we know that WWF works through hubs to meet its, to implement its activities and meet the strategic plan objectives. So it is crucial that these hubs have an updated action plan that is taking into consideration the emerging issues. Then also facilitate CSO networks in creating unified advocacy plans and amplify the collective voice and impact on civic spaces. So here the core output there is having a civil society advocacy plan. So please feel free as we go through the different sessions to identify the advocacy kind of issues that if we are to make this advocacy plan, we should not leave any of them out. Then media engagement to build campaign on equitable climate and environmental governance. That is why you see we also have representatives of the media. So we want to have a core, we want to have a toolkit on equitable climate and environmental governance, but also have media articles. Then translate simplified National Environment Act and attendant regulation into local language for the region. When we disseminated the NIA in Runyoro, surprisingly, the stakeholders there indicated they need one in their language. So I think there is a lot to do with the translation. Each would want the regulations to speak to their language. So the translation might not end now. There, the core output is translate NIAS and the regulations. So we are looking at having 100 copies printed and 1,000 copies printed and disseminated. Then we go to the next slide. Under the last objective, where I want to promote participation in environmental policy and law at district and national level, the core activity is to contribute to the development of the natural resource management plans for key resources, forests, wetlands, national parks. So there the core output is natural resource management plan developed. Then strategic engagement, this is one of the outputs of that activity. Strategic engagement with NEMA, Ministry of Justice, on the draft regulations. Then we want to do expanded consultations. I mean expanded drafting of these regulations. Then facilitate the gazettement and the production of the regulations and establish, after the regulations are approved, we want to establish, for your information, we started with wanting to establish the committees, but then were informed by NEMA that there was no legal instrument to support the district. So we had to go backwards to have this process first finalized. And once we have them, we intend to have 6 committees established in 6 districts. And then do an orientation on the operationalization of these regulations in those 6 districts. You can please proceed. So that's it. Thank you so much.
Usually they make sure the one of the moderator is working.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and thank you for the presentation from Emily. I really pick it up from your last slide, the establishment of committees. If there's money, please give them the money. Don't establish and leave them at that. Yeah, these are local government people. So if there's some funding in addition to the NEF that they will get. Then also, when this regulation is assented to by the minister, I have seen that it will be popularized, yes. And that is a very good and important step because the rest of the regulations do not have a direct kind of bearing on the local government. It is only this regulation that they'll use. So in addition to what you're going to do, we shall have to make what we call a popular version of this regulation. It is an important step. Yes. So let us make a popular version in those regions, in those tribes. I don't know. We did one for the NEA, the National Environment Act. I hope you're aware. Yes. So we could take the same faith and have these popular versions developed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anthony, you are threatening to.
Thanks so much. Council has actually helped me to deal with one of the questions on this, just establishment, because I was going to raise a comment. I was going to raise a comment that why just establish, because the real business is in the operationalization. And the other thing which had come on my mind was all this time we didn't have the district environment and natural resources committees.
I'm asking them how they have been running this.
Yes, how have they been running? Because in the other law, like the environment, the Climate Change Act, we give responsibility to some of these committees at the districts. So were they operating in air or by proxy or something like that?
Eunice, you want to respond?
I can respond to the gentleman, my colleague, actually, he's going to fund my trip to Bonn.
Okay. Don't tell anything to Eunice because she just declares things in spaces that where people have been hiding. Go ahead, Eunice.
Yes, when you look at the law, and the composition under specifically Section 27, you find that some of these committee members are members of parliament. Yes, the town clerks, the engineers, the RDCs. Now, the practice that has been happening is that whenever we get into a new era of politics, like now we have new members of parliament, yes. So they are formed after, So those that have been operating, I think they go with the current trend, 5 years. So after 5 years, then we have a new formation. Yes.
Okay. You have the mic, yeah.
Mine is not so big because I know Rita has been so much involved when it comes to culture institutions because I've worked with her with Buganda Kingdom. I only just need to ask about participations. For example, the culture institutions, they coexist with local governments down there. And you talked about the indigenous people. That's a very contentious thing to say, indigenous people. Sometimes when you come to Uganda, it is hard to know who is indigenous. So it is also something to think about. Now, the other one is whatever I'm looking at there is very beautiful. But there is one person who is missing in this room, and that is the representative of the National Planning Authority, because they answer a lot of the questions we might be putting to Christine and the team. Thank you.
Okay. Is Nema still sitting on that board, the Planning Authority board, such that you answer that question very quickly for him? Okay. Okay. Excellent. Do you want to respond? There are no comments. Okay. You take them in good faith. Don't be like PhD students. When the questions are very difficult, they say, I take note of the comment during the discussion, the defense. But WWF, Rita, you've picked it. Don't just establish. They want the committees operationalized. And I think you may have to reflect on what you want to do in your work plan to go beyond just establishing those committees, but making them operational. That has budget implications. So please talk to our friends in Sweden that we don't want just to establish, we want the committees to run. All right, we are now going to switch gears. Yes, Chimbo.
I think I'm starting to understand the process like I mentioned. I didn't know where to start and where it is ending. But one of this, I'm seeing a gap, perhaps maybe others also see it, that there are institutions that we know are responsible for degradation, or in their activities, they are supposed to be, they are degrading the environment. And these regulations really come almost, they should be the primary,
You have some suspects for us to get the context right?
It's like, I must say that maybe the banks are supporting activities unknowingly that are degrading the environment. So I'm asking myself, some of these people, have they been consulted? Or I can mention the banks, I can mention the agriculturists, the federation, for example, agriculture, even the PDM secretariat, they are busy issuing, giving out 1 million shillings, and people are doing what they want without any control. The manufacturers. So I'm asking myself, to what extent have these people been consulted or plan to be consulted? Thank you.
Okay. Yes. You have a mic around there? You can use. Okay.
Thank you so much, moderator. I must thank you that you are so far doing a very good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. I wanted to inquire from Christine. One of the challenges or one of the effects of the the conspicuous absence of the committees, of the natural resource and environment committees at the district is the rampant or the increased disasters. I'd like to know from you whether, because under the National Climate Change Act, we are supposed to have the district disaster management committees. Did you, by any chance, find these committees, the disaster committees there? Because for any case, if there could be some bit of overlap. Of course, Section 27 is very clear about the committees we are referring to. But if the disaster committees were there, then probably they would complement or they would supplement the work that the environment committees are supposed to be doing. And at what point shall we be able to draw a line? Because as colleagues in the room may be aware, we've been pushing for the enactment of the Disaster Management Act, the law to operationalize the disaster management plan. So I think it provides us an opportunity to try and see that we scale up that conversation. But I want to start to hear from Christian whether actually in the committee, in the district where you didn't find the involved disaster management committees. If they are not there, then we have a lot of work to do, all of us in this room. Thank you so much.
Christian, that's a yes or no, so it shouldn't take you long.
Oh, yes. Yes, it is. Yes, we did find, and I think it was very prominent in Kasese, maybe because they received so much of the disasters. But yes, they have them.
Okay. Eunice, for our benefit, sorry, I'm holding you at ransom. Is there any cross referencing of the Climate Change Act and the NEA in relation to these two committees that are provided for by the two laws? Okay. Okay. So again, that allays your fears. So the Natural Resource Committee, the District Natural Resources Committee, and the Disaster Risk Management Committees, I think they are supposed to work in tandem. And I think that's what Robert was emphasizing, that for the first time, okay, not the first time, this is one of the few opportunities where the two laws are supporting each other. And that's very useful in policy coherence. How I wish that we have many other laws that support each other, that we enact. So like I said, we're going to switch gears to listen to the regulator. Do they still like to refer themselves as the regulator? NEMA. Okay, excellent. Yeah, and that has implications. If you admire, you prefer a certain identity, it means that you're going to focus a lot on compliance. So let's listen to the regulator who is in charge of these regulations. Listen carefully. If Eunice, your team, who is presenting? James, you're ready? Are you using your computer or? Okay, Secretariat, please. As they work on your slide, slides or presentation, feel free to spend 1 or 2 minutes reintroducing yourself to those who are not here and what you'd like us to do after your presentation or what you'd like to see. You know, when you are engaging stakeholders, you as one who is interested in stakeholder input, you have your wishes. So please come and make your wish list and we see whether you'll have achieved at the end of your session. Are you a lone player or you have another partner?
Good morning. I hope it's still morning. Good afternoon. Yes, as earlier introduced, my name is James Muhindo. I work with NEMA as a senior legal officer, and I've been working with my colleagues on drafting this regulation. But also with us online, as the manager mentioned, we have colleagues that are in Mbale for the International Day for Biodiversity who couldn't join us, but have joined online. We have the Assistant Commissioner in charge of lead agency coordination, Dr. Jerome Lugumira, who is online. I think the computer people can share the screen. And then Mr. Nduga Peter, a senior lead agency coordinator, who has also been active in these processes. I'm going to request that the technology people allow the lead agency coordination team to share with us briefly a word as the Assistant Commissioner Legal shared. Lead agencies are the government entities mandated with management of certain segments of the environment, and districts and urban authorities are lead agencies in charge of environment within their jurisdiction. So at NEMA, we have a division that is charged with coordinating the activities of those agencies. And this regulation, once the legal team is done with the process of drafting in partnership with the stakeholders that we are consulting, the implementation of the regulation will be overseen by the lead agency coordination team. So I would like to ask Dr. Lugumira or Peter Nduga to say a word in respect to lead agency coordination and the work they are doing with the districts, especially the committees, before I start. Peter, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Please.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. We can hear you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As have been introduced, my name is Peter Nduga Michael, and work with NEMA as a senior lead agency coordinator, where we've been supporting the lead agencies in quite a number of activities just to ensure that they can actually fulfill their capacity and mandate of managing the segment of the environment that they oversee. Among the work that we have done is support them in developing their environment action plans. Here we've been taking them through the regulations and enabling them to be able to write and update their environment action plans for those that already have, and also support those that hadn't yet prepared. And we've been also able to support those districts or lead agencies that have had prior funding, for example, the GFK, who as a component were required to see to it that they have their district environment and natural resource committees running. So we were able to have meetings with them and share with them what the law says and to get them started. So of course like you've heard, there was the absence of the regulations that would empower them to be able to do the work of the committee. However, in our engagements, because they normally submit their reports, there are some that hold meetings once in a quarter. Then there are those that have the committee is present by virtue of the fact of what the law says. However, they are facing the challenge of being able to facilitate those quarterly meetings that they are supposed to have. But of course, there is an understanding of the need of a committee and its need and presence within a district or within the local government. So we are supposed or meant to monitor and coordinate and ensure that the local governments are able to do their mandate and carry on the work of managing their environment together with us, because where we can't reach, they have the jurisdiction, they are there, they are our extension. So we are working hand in hand together in all those aspects. Thank you so much.
Peter, for that brief. Yes, so beyond the work we are doing as legal to draft these regulations, there is already a team at NEMA which is continuing to support districts in the the different work they do, the mandate they have as lead agencies, like preparing plans and also preparing state of environment reports periodically. And for those that have jumped the gun and are already having a semblance of district environment natural resource committees, they are also helped to do their work even when they are not yet formally constituted, because the committees have a role they play, and the absence of these committees mean that there is work that is not being done. So for some districts, I think even the research Emily did showed that among the 4 or 5 districts they were using as case studies, some of them had the district natural resource team constituting meetings as a committee, and the challenges they grapple with, which were highlighted in the report that the team from Emily shared. So for me this morning, our focus, as you see on the program, it's supposed to be an overview of the draft regulation. According to the preparation, this meeting was supposed to just be brought up to speed with where we are right now. But since we have members that are joining are interfacing with this regulation for the first time, I may share a little more detail. But the slide I had prepared was really just to run through the regulation, and also I had thought we would then share the roadmap. So, yes. Okay. All right. So we can go to the next slide. I don't have a pointer. Yes. The regulations are part of the instruments that are supposed to be established by the minister to operationalize the National Environment Act. Sections 27 of the Act, 28, 29, and 30 speak to information that relates to management of the environment at urban and district level. And that's why the Act provides with a lot of detail what the district environment and natural resource committees are, and also provides for the functions of these committees. So at that level, much as it's in the Act, it already has a lot of detail that we are now putting in the Act, in the regulation, even without changing. So in terms of what is already provided in the Act, that one we have in the regulation, and what we are doing is now to add procedures on how the committees will be operating. Section 29 is important, and I think relates to Section 33, which the Assistant Commissioner mentioned regarding natural resource conditional grants. How are districts and urban authorities facilitated? And we have a colleague from the ministry who are charged with that conditional grant, who can shed some light, I think, and answer some questions that may relate to that. But also, NEMA has the National Environment Fund, which we think effective next financial year, we may have some disbursements, but the money is still small. It can't be enough to go around. So it will be going to selected districts based on a procedure that was established in the National Environment Fund regulations and for Regulation 30. So the first part of the regulation provides for the title or citation of the regulation, and it's cited as the National Environment in brackets, the National Environment in brackets, District Environment Natural Resource Committee, close brackets regulations, as you saw in the first slide. And these regulations, Regulation 2 provides for application of the regulation. Regulation 3, purpose of the regulation, which is to operationalize sections 27 and 28 of the Act. And we have an interpretation section that is providing for words, terms, or phrases that require interpretation. So that is the first part of the regulation. I'll request my colleague Ram to give me my laptop, and just in case you need some detail on the regulation, the specifics. So that's the first part of the regulation. And yes. So if there is any detail, I'll be sharing, but it's not in the slide. We can go to part 2. Part 2 provides for establishment of the committees. It's precise. It says there shall be established in each district or urban authority a district environment and natural resource committee. Yeah, it's a provision just for the establishment of those committees. Then in part 3, and as you heard earlier, we have someone from First Parliamentary Council who are the experts in this drafting. For us, we do environmental law. They do the layout and the process. So she can share any comments at some point. Part 3 has 6 regulations, composition of the committees, and in the composition we put which members are part of this regulation. As I mentioned, the Act already speaks to the committees, and among the things the Act mentions is the composition, district chairperson, members of parliament, RDCs, secretary for environment, and so on. There are about 12 members. And then Regulation 7, appointment and taking of oath. Regulation 8, tenure of office. 9, removal from office. 10, secretariat of the committee. And the secretariat is the one mandated with running up and down for the activities of the committee. And according to the regulation, we give that function to the district natural resource officer. And then we have duties of the secretariat, which in that case would be duties of the natural resource officer, and functions of the committee. These are also picked from the Act because they are already provided, and we can't depart from what is already detailed in the Act. So that's what is in part 3. And just to shine light on the functions of the district environment and natural resources committees are to coordinate the activities of urban or district councils relating to management of the environment and natural resources, to prepare district environment action plans, ensure that environmental concerns are integrated in all plans and projects approved by the urban or district council, prepare the district state of environment report, to assist in the formulation and enforcement of ordinances and bylaws relating to the management of the environment. And as I mentioned, when Mr. Nduga was presenting, he spoke to NEMA already supporting districts in preparing environment action plans and state of environment reports. So in principle, these committees are the ones that are supposed to lead that process, but because they are not in existence at the moment, we have the district natural resource office taking the process. Basically, the secretariat is what is doing the work that should be spearheaded by a committee, and then the secretariat just supports technically. So among their functions include that: monitor all activities within its local jurisdiction, promote the dissemination of information about environment, coordinate with the authority on all issues relating to management of environment, coordinate the activities of environment and natural resource committees in the management of the environment, and carry out such other functions as may be prescribed by the urban or district council. So the committees have functions that are clear-cut, and in this regulation, we are not even debating them. We just get them from the Act because we are not MPs. Yes. So the next part, this is where now a lot of discussion has gone on, especially in our consultations that we've held thanks to support from Emily, where we were bringing representatives from districts to share details on how the meetings should be run. Meetings of the committee, the chairperson and secretary and their roles, and quorum for meetings. There is a lot of detail in those different regulations. Then types of meetings after notices. We have decisions of the committee. How does the committee arrive at its decisions? They have power to co-opt, much as they have, actually, maybe before I go to that, one of the contentious discussions were about quorum, because the committee in its composition has so many people that the Natural Resource Office doesn't have resources to convene. They have all the MPs are supposed to be members. RDCs, LC5. So without resources, the committee cannot call MPs from Kampala to come and be part of the meeting. Some districts have as many as 6 or 8 MPs, and that makes it hard. So we, in discussing quorum, we thought it should be based on the number, and in the provision says a quorum shall be required for the conduct of the business, end of the business of the committee, and we said quorum shall be 10 members. The members vary depending on the district, because the number of MPs, the total number of MPs, if a district has 6 MPs, all of them have to be in the committee. Then 11 other people, 11 other offices. Yeah, so we thought even if we don't have any of, if we are less by 8, we can still have business. During the consultations, I think we established that the total number of representatives based on what is in the Act may go to about 30 people, because it's offices, not individuals. Yeah, so you find a district has RDC, deputy RDC, who heads different urban authorities. I think assistant RDCs, all those are part of the committee. So by saying 10, we were looking at about 40% should be quorum for them to have their meetings, irrespective of who is in. And then on the chairperson and secretary, we make provision for the committee being able to constitute, to select a chairperson if the substantive chairperson is absent. We were trying to make it workable based on the realities of the teams on ground who are sharing their experience in the challenges they find in constituting this committee. As shared finances are a big problem, and because they don't have money, they can't sit on a quarterly basis. If they have to spend in excess of 5 million every quarter for a meeting, yet their budget is like 8 million for a year. So that's what we have here. And then disclosure of interest, if there is any member who has interest relating to a matter before the committee, they can recuse themselves. They have power to co-opt if there is any officer in the district who they think would add value to the meeting. They can invite them, for example, sub-county chiefs or maybe LC1s of an area where they need information and so on. So that also allows the composition to be flexible without, of course, co-opted members being voting members. They can at least come and share information. Then in 19, we share the proceedings of the meeting. How do they, what happens during the meetings? Yeah, so the last two regulations, we know because the regulation is going to, the committee makes decisions. Those decisions can from time to time be contested, can from time to time be questioned. We provide for an appeal process. Through the consultations, we've not had a lot of input on these two, but from the drafting point, we thought it would be prudent for appeals to come to NEMA as the regulator, monitor, supervisor, and inspector. So that if any of the, in whichever district, anyone who is not contented with the decision of the committee, they appeal to NEMA as the supervisors of the committees. And in terms of delegation, because the committee is too big, if they have to undertake an inspection from time to time, you may not require the inspection to only be valid if all the members are present, or even the secretariat being the ones that do the day-to-day processes. So we provided also for delegation of powers and functions of the committee from time to time, where for some of the functions that require technical officers to undertake, they can delegate in writing and assign members of the technical wing of the district to undertake that process. So those are the 21 regulations that make up this regulation. And then the schedules on the next slide, we have schedules relating to currency point, if they have to issue fines or penalties, structure of the district state of environment report. The lead agency coordination team is working on this. We are going to also add a schedule on the structure of a plan as the third schedule, and then we shall have a form for notice as the fourth schedule. Yes, I thought when Peter was sharing earlier, he would also give us an update on the work they're doing. They are preparing to come up with performance appraisals for districts, a structure for appraising performance for districts, which helps to inform the allocation of resources from NEF, so that the districts that are reporting on time, that have action plans and are implementing their functions as a lead agency, take precedence in awarding the 70% from NEF, because it doesn't help for us to say a district that doesn't even have a district environment action plan, because it's also a lead agency, we give them funds, yet there are those that are ready to go with their plans and so on, and have been actively protecting the environment. So there is also that in the offing, which we can consider to either pick some of the information or the forms in that performance appraisal and put in this regulation. Yes, so that's really it in terms of the overview of the regulation. And with that, I can open up to questions before we go to the next slide, which relates to the roadmap.
Thank you very much, Muhindo. That makes you number one in your family. Number what? Number 4 of the 7. Okay. Comments, questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Muhindo.
Nathan Mununu's okay. You'll raise a question probably.
Thank you very much, Mr. Muhindo. Bumba McDonald, once again, is my name. My question, I know it's already in motion, it's rotating, but I just wanted to ask, when you talked about establishment, then of course the quorum came in. You know, we are in a country of multi-party system. And when you look at the establishment and the quorum, you will have issues of NRM, NUP, FDC. So when there is an issue that is very contentious, how does that committee that has been established really handle that? I know for you, you set the thing moving, but the thing will be at the district, the higher local government or lower local government. But I don't know how, what kind of medicine you have for that, because sometimes there is something that is big that is moving in terms of environment, but because of politics, people tend not to do good things. Due diligence is never done very well. Because, for example, if you have a chairperson who is NRM and you have 6 MPs that are NOP, how do you navigate that? Then the other one was co-opting. It's a good thing to put in there. But my question is, I know Christine gave us an overview of some of the things, but I'm asking, yes, I know we have the elective and the technical part of the district that you can opt in. But my question is, do you have a voice from the religious, the culture, or I normally call it the voice of concern in the community, the elderly, on that committee? Can they come in? Because sometimes when you're going to buy land, there is what we call kaokada no mutaka. So sometimes there is one who has been there since time immemorial. Then there is one that came with the money and established. So the elderly, how are they being put into this? Because sometimes they see how life has been moving in a particular environment. I come from Boyogere Division, Shira Municipality, Wakiso District. It used to be very green, but with development, things are turning on its edge. So those are my 2 most important things: co-opting and establishment when it comes to quorum. Thank you.
Can you give your neighbor? Thank you.
Council, thank you for the presentation. My name is Ephraim Pasos. I work with Water and Environment Media Network. You talked about the composition of the committee. I have I'm concerned as Muntu Wawansi. Calling on these politicians, because you said MPs, these are politicians. LC5s, these are politicians. RDCs, all these are politicians. The chairpersons at the district and the sub-counties are all politicians, including most of the local parish chiefs, if they can be co-opted also. I have a concern. These are all people who are not environmentalists. And many of them are already tied up in, they have black spots in terms of environmental destruction in the districts. Most of the destructions are done by those people in the powers. Okay. And we see these are the people who are going to work as committees, to constitute the committee. Isn't this a problem? Because this is across the country. Why I don't, and I've not seen, you will clarify, Council, whether you have, because I've not heard you talking about people like the Patrick Kagaba who know environment. What is really
Thank
is
you
going
for
to
the
happen?
compliment. Well, you have to, maybe Eunice, who was, I don't know whether you read that NEMA when they were framing this law, the spirit of having almost only politicians on that committee as provided for in the Act. And also in that line, you could also reflect on the Act that was repealed had sub-county environment committees, and the current Act doesn't have. How do we address that gap? I think the two could be of value. Think about it as I get more questions. I only brought the microphone to you to be aware that that question is yours, not for Muhindo. Okay? You have some historical connection to the law. Okay, let me first, Kimbo, I have to go to government, you know. She's from government, Minister of Water.
Yeah, thank you, moderator. My issue is on the operationalization. Yeah, I've seen our regulations trying to make it easy for the committee to be constituted and sit. But how is the facilitation going to be like? Is the funding going to come from NEF, or is there going to be a separate funding? I just want to hear this.
All right, funding. People have to take tea, coffee in their meetings. Any other? Okay, Kimbo.
Yeah, very much. I think for me, when I reflect on this, on the functions of the committee, I would think that we perhaps need a schedule on monitoring. There's a role on monitoring. I think 28F to monitor all activities, blah blah blah, in the local jurisdiction. Part of the problem we have is that things are done and there's no clear monitoring. Each district can monitor the way they think, and they turn around and say, but we did the monitoring, when there's no standard way that it's done. So a schedule to me would be very important to add. Okay. For monitoring.
So indicators based on their responsibilities as provided for in the Act would be useful in shaping the schedule of that particular clause in the regulation. Okay, okay, Rachel, your hand is just halfway.
Just a small reminder, we need to have gender concerns at the bottom of our minds while constituting these committees. With all those people that we propose to make it up, gender should be a concern.
Okay. Gender, equity. Does gender mean men and women or all? Okay, let's have the last one. Then okay. There is also government.
There was also a hand on online, I think.
And the hand online is government.
All right.
So can we hear from you, Nathan? I like to prioritize government because at the end of the day, they are the ones who are going to implement this.
Much obliged.
Okay. Nathan, go ahead and make your comment.
Thank you, Patrick, and thanks to everyone for this meeting. Sorry, I couldn't make it physically, and it puts me at a disadvantage that at some instances I've been wishing to come in and say something, but I'm forgotten. Nathan Mununuz is my name. I'm Senior Environment Officer at the Ministry of Water and Environment. I was privileged to be on the technical team that drafted the Act. And if I was the one to be asked to tell the story how we got to that composition, I would tell it, but Eunice will tell you. But one of the challenges actually we got in this is widening the scope.
Nathan, Eunice has allowed you to share.
Thank you, thank you. One of the things that really took us by surprise was actually that section on the composition. We did not initially think of having members of parliament and the RDCs and what included on the committees, given the complication of inviting them, facilitating them, because initially we had the standing committee of council, and the intention was that the district environment committee would be the equivalent of the policy committee on environment at the national level. So it would basically be composed of people who are basically within the district leadership. And as has already been mentioned, that committee is too big and very difficult to convene. I was hearing in the morning people saying that maybe it is because the regulations are not yet there that the committees have not been constituted, but they would even be functioning without the regulations. But the composition and the modalities are not very, very practical. But I'm happy that we're having the regulations now being drafted. My concerns were about 2 or 3. From the citation, the sections being mentioned included the sections on the conditional grant, which is actually being managed by the Ministry of Water and Environment. That is the coordination, and even the guidelines for the use of the conditional grant are by the ministry. But when I look at the structure of the regulations, I didn't see anything mentioned about the management of that grant, as well as the NEF, which we are anticipating should be coming out soon. And I was wondering what actually would we be having in such a regulation. Talk about these grants. And so if not mentioned, then we would remove them from the citation. But if they are there, it would be good also to know about what provisions they are that have been put in those regulations. And then the aspect of, in part 3, as the senior legal counsel was talking about the structure, I was seeing regulations on the tenure of office and removal from office. I'm looking at this at the risk of not reading what is entailed therein, but I'm really wondering if someone being on that committee is by virtue of the office and is the office bearer. How do you remove that person from the committee? And if what I'm thinking is true, that that person can only be removed if he's removed from the office, then it would make these provisions redundant, because by implication, if you are the office bearer and that section requires that you are part, then your removal from office, as well as your tenure of office, would be by virtue of you being in that office, not by the committee itself. So I would be interested also in what is provided therein under those regulations. I submit.
Yeah, thank you so much, moderator, and thank you so much, James, and the entire team that has come up with the draft. I'd like to comment on the issue of the scope of the committee, which I think is very critical, because that will help to build to put a perimeter wall on how far they can go. And I think that we need to be very, very strong on it. I don't know whether, James, that is embedded within the act, or that is something that we need to come up with. As you ably said, we are not drafting, we are not parliament. Parliament is is the only one that has the power to amend the mother act. So therefore, are we coming up with a scope as ourselves, or we have to get it from the 27? The other issue that I'd like to comment on is the issue right now, because a colleague raised the issue of the politicians on the committee. Every district has a district environment and natural resource officer and a district forest officer. Those are very technical people. They are technical people, and they would be able to guide the committee. However, I will bring a classic example, like in the issue of Goma Forest. Chukube district issued a very, very good report and recommendation, which was what you can call Tojikwatako, Goma Forest Tojikwatako, that they should not give up Goma Forest. They made the recommendation to NEMA, but to the disappointment that the report was disregarded. I don't know why it was left on the shelves to gather dust, but it was just pushed away. Nevertheless, a certificate was issued to that effect. So shall we now have reports coming from committees be respected once they actually come to the regulator? Because if a report can come from a technical officer and is disregarded, then I am concerned that still when it comes from the politician that has had a lot of influence, talking about issues of gender, we have a lot of, so I'm quite concerned that we may still have the reports coming, but they don't get concerned, they don't get, accepted or even considered. The other point that moderator you raised, and I like why you kept asking my sister Eunice about the spirit that behind this the regulation. I think that I'd like to request the drafting team to visit the Hansard when the National Environment Act was being debated in the Parliament. What did they try to chew by bringing in place Section 27? My thinking, without even interacting with the Hansard, is that they wanted to bring down the spirit of decentralization. Because I have been across the country, and I can tell you, colleagues in this room, NEMA is very thin on the ground. NEMA is just at NEMA house. On the ground, there is no NEMA. You go to that, and that's why we're having, and I'm putting it as bluntly as it is, and all of us here can agree with me. So therefore, the decentralization, the committees on the ground would actually chew the mischief or the problem of not having NEMA on the ground. And NEMA team would want to be on the ground, but they are also always constrained. You have heard that the budget can only be just about 8 million, but then for them the committee to convene, they need about 5 million. So it's really, so I think the issue of decentralization is very, very critical. And to that extent, the National Climate Change Act provides for the NDC, the National Determined Contribution. We are currently undergoing the review of the NDC framework, but it is just being done at the center. Yet we are supposed to be having district NDCs. People in Moroto, they develop their own NDC. People in Kasese develop their own NDC. People in Kanungu develop their NDC. Then that district NDC inform the national NDC. So we should be able to decentralize environmental restoration and environmental conservation on the ground, so that we can be able to inform national interventions. Finally, the issue of emerging issues, for example, like carbon, like the mandate of the committee, for example, to address some of the emerging issues. You have had, for example, the vibe around carbon trade and carbon markets. Because time and again, while we talk about the negative aspects of environment, but we need also to popularize the incentives and the opportunities that come with environmental restoration. Because we say we protect environment for what? So the issue of how we can try to address the incentive, because James, you talked about appraisals. I can tell you that people, my experience of dealing with people in government and people, especially the politicians, they don't be appraised. If you say you're going to appraise them, you become a problem. And that's why you see sometimes we as civil society actors, we get in trouble and being branded as being confrontational when we ask the tough questions, accountability issues. So can we introduce, for example, I know that NEMA has come up with, for example, the awards, the NEMA awards, sustainability awards. Is it possible that also you can say that now these committees can be appraised in terms of performance by, for example, giving them awards that we now next time we say, okay, a committee from Kasese is one which has actually performed very well. Copying from the Uganda Local Government Association, they have come up with performance of different districts. And I think Guru, and I think Fortpoto, Kabarore, and they have been performing well. Is there a way how we can embed appraisals in terms of awards, other than where you actually now when you go to start asking the questions, they want to avoid or even hide information, but when they know that when they provide the information, it will actually give them a positive recognition. I think it would be very good in that end by introducing the awards of the performance of these committees, so that at the end of the day, it incentivizes them and attracts them to actually themselves, breathing life in these committees. Otherwise, we shall have them on the ground, and they will just remain there when they are not actually effective. Thank you.
Okay, we can have Anthony, and then you respond.
Yeah, thanks so much, Prof and Council. on the functions of the committee. I wanted to see the relationship or the other functions which are given to them by the other acts, the Forest Act, I think the one of wetlands maybe is still on the way, the Climate Change Act, the NEA itself, and there could be others on the way because this committee has quite a lot of work. And that means those acts or the functions as prescribed there, which this committee should carry, must be supported. How are we going to ensure that there is support? Because you raised some limitation on funding or resourcing of these committees. But I'm aware that they also do other functions other than the ones under the NEA. How do we ensure that the different government agencies or departments that want their functions to be undertaken here provide the resources? And that's also, I think, talks about the Local Government Act. I don't know how it provides for this or how they relate, because I think they operate under the Local Government Act as well. Is that correct? And how does the Local Government Act support their operationalization? So I want to look at it in a broader sense, how these various functions can be supported by the other legislations as well.
Okay, before you respond, the moderator was also listening, so he has some issues that you may have to reflect on. You don't have to answer. Quorum, do we use percentage or numbers? Where are you safer? Okay, because remember we have power asymmetry in this committee as provided for in the Act. You have MPs who are national leaders, and then you have those other people on the ground or in the district. I think you've heard the sentiments that is possible that the way the law has provided for constituting this committee, we might not get what we expect because it is dominated by political actors and very few technical people. So how do you navigate around that? You have, I think, a regulation on co-option. We may need to explore more on how do we enrich that particular regulation on co-option so that we have more people on the ground to deliver what he mentioned as decentralization of environmental management, which I think is really the spirit. But also we could say we are trying to do what we call polycentrism, where you spread risks. Because if you put all powers in a single entity and it is weak, becomes weak for some reason, then you're at a huge loss. So you need to share power in different entities. There is also something that has emerged that you need to reflect on, which in my view is crucial. The relationship between the NEMA and these committees at the district. If the principal law has provided for delegation of responsibilities to a lower unit, does that mean that the appeal process has to go back? The law has delegated. So the extent to which the law has delegated this responsibility needs to be explored further, so that the question you're asking, do they appeal to NEMA? Is there another process of addressing any impasse that might emerge? Then something else that I also think you need to, the regulation on the part of delegation of powers to technical people, I think, if I got you right. We may need to be cautious on the extent to which the regulation can create new opportunities. We shouldn't overstep, because I'm imagining I am the district environment officer and the committee member delegates to me. I hope we are not violating the spirit, like someone said, of the framers at that time who decided that it has to only be political actors. what is it that, how far can we get in delegating, and what kind of authority can that person have that has been delegated? On that part of the structure of the report, correct me if I'm wrong, the people from NEMA, I think we have been struggling on the structure of the National State of Environment report. Do we now have something that has been agreed upon and gazetted? Because I'm one of those people who is always complaining that every State of Environment report is different from the previous one. So is there a possibility of adopting what has been agreed upon for as a structure of the National State of Environment report? Because that report is supposed to be informed by the reports that are coming from the districts. So this could be a great opportunity for us to agree on what needs to be our structure at the national level, but also it should be reflecting the same at the district level. I think there is also something on decision making of this committee that we may need to reflect on. I think, what powers do these committees have in relation to their, is the principal law giving enough information? If it is not on the powers these committees have, because people might overstep their responsibilities. You might need to provide us guidance on how far these committees can go. Because if you have an MP and he goes down to a district where he has interest on some wetland, and they might make a decision that might not be very useful. So please, as you reflect on this, answer those that you think you need answers.
Maybe,
of them were
moderator, just a second.
Sure.
James, will the committees have a say on the EIAs and ACRs, the environmental impact assessment and the environmental social impact assessment as provided for under Section 5 of the National Environment Act? I think if they really would have an input and a say, it would really chew a lot. And then finally, Section 76 of the National Environment Act provides for environmental audits. I must say, without really fear of contradiction, that's an area that NEMA is still very, very, very weak. Because most of the companies, most of the developments have done the ACRs, they've got the certificates, but when it comes to environmental audits, periodic reporting, really, I don't know. I don't know. I would be very happy if the committees can actually be empowered to contribute carrying out the environmental audits.
Okay. If you can't answer that one, then we shall refer them to the Asia regulations.
Yes.
Mr. Moderator, allow me to first come in. I don't know whether the rest of the questions have been forwarded. In such forums, my brother usually forgets where both of us are coming from. It is very strange for him to say that NEMA is not visible, NEMA is not on ground.
He is being figurative.
Yet
Don't worry.
environmental management in the country is centralized, and he heavily knows that. You know the role of lead agency stipulated for us. You know that NEMA cannot approve any project unless we get comments from the lead agencies. We usually write to them, and the days are stipulated under the Asia regulations. If they don't reply to us, we are technical authority, and we carry out those decisions with the technical backup. Yes, a lot of questions have been asked, and allow me to start with the answer on appeals. Yes, you are already aware that is Section 140 of the National Environment Act, which empowers NEMA to review all its decisions and those of the organs that have been entrusted to take out decisions. So where a decision has been taken out by this committee and someone is dissatisfied, they have a right under this section to apply to NEMA, and NEMA will review the decisions. Yes, I had written out a number of them. Mr. Turiachira and the rest in the room, you know that this law was unpacked, heavily unpacked, when it was being discussed on the floor of Parliament. When you look at Section 16 of the National Environment Act or the CAP, the act that was repealed, it provided that a local government shall, on the advice of the District Environment Committee, appoint local environment committee members. Now, those were the sub-county chiefs that we are talking about. But in the new law, we have what is stipulated under Section 27. I'll not be able to read all these titles, but you also know that we have technical people that are backing up this very composition. For example, we have the Secretary for Environment, we have the District Engineer, the Physical Planning Officer, the Community Development Officer, to mention but a few. But I also have a feeling that some of this lower level were taken out at this stage when this law was being debated. Why? Because when you come to Section 28 of the National Environment Act, specifically under E, there's a core function of formulation of bylaws. Now, bylaws apply to sub-county. Yes. So you cannot say you are empowering them, yet they are not represented there. So that can be part of that is one of the lacuna, and I am going to actually look at the bill by then and see if it was taken out. Unfortunately, under Section 27, we are not saying that any other can be part of the committee. Yes. They are clearly stipulated, and there's no provision for any other. Yes, Mr. Moderator, you said that the composition is full of politicians, but that is the law. Yes, yeah, but I'm going to get back and we see if we can get QR FPC. That is something that we can note and that you can advise us on. For the gender considerations, this NEMA will have minimal role to play under this because under subsection 2, that is section 27 subsection 2, there's a provision that the members of the committee shall elect amongst themselves a chairperson and a vice chairperson of the committee. So for the composition of this very committee at the district level, I do not think that NEMA can influence, but I align myself with that very opinion that gender should be really considered. And I think it is something that we can also slide in the regulations. Yeah, gender is cross-cutting. The feature is female, and we cannot avoid that. I'll come back later on. Thank you.
That's a fact or the truth.
I am provoking my colleague Turiachira.
But also the youth and the people with disabilities would want to be on the committees. I know there are many geniuses in this room that will want to sit on the committee.
The Chinese say when women get out of their sleep, mountains move. So be very careful, Riachira. Yeah, when a woman tells you that they can move things, be aware. Yeah, but on the gender part, maybe this goes to the council. We don't have principles for the regulations, right? No, we have them in the act. But, okay. Please respond.
Thank you very much. We have Dr. Jerome Lugumira, the Assistant Commissioner for Lead Agency Coordination online. I think there are some questions which I thought
Jerome, were you listening
shine light
attentively?
on.
Okay, Jerome, it is alleged that these are your regulations. I thought they were ours, but that's
Wait.
okay.
Are those the only ones online? Or maybe he has dropped off.
Okay. Please give him enough data in future, NEMA, such that he meaningfully participates.
Dr. Jerome, there was a question on the state of environment report structure being included as part of the schedules, and then the linkage between district reports and the national state of environment report, and also funding for the committees. I thought if you could weigh in on those three in terms of the work the committees, the work your team is doing on the state of environment report and also the structure. Hello, Dr. Jerome. Maybe
Okay.
he has dropped off.
We see him there, but it could be like students. They log on and go and start preparing lunch.
Hello.
Jerome, are you with us?
I see Peter has unmuted.
Okay,
Peter,
go ahead.
Thank you so much, James. Allow me step in for Doctor as he comes. He must have maybe stepped away from his desk. So currently we are in the process of finalizing the regulations for preparing state of environment reports, where the issue to do with the structure, both for the national, the district and urban authority level reports, as well as the MDA report, the structures are going to be harmonized and they will be ready. That is one of the sections in the guidelines that has been worked on. So when that is ready, we'll be able to chip it in, I think, within these regulations. So because there is something that we've worked on and the team has prepared along with other stakeholders. The guidelines are currently up for, the draft is up for the next stage of validation, from which then on would be presented to top management and then the board for approval. So we are moving.
Peter, we have stakeholders who are interested in making a contribution to those guidelines, if your system allows.
Yes, we are very welcome.
Okay. Muhindo.
All right, thank you very much, Peter, for that addition. So the first question on establishment and the politics has been answered by two people that were part of the drafting process. I think now that it's in the Act, it can only be changed by Parliament. On the question of co-opting special interest groups, that one, the provision on co-opting opens up the window where, as a matter of practice, they can always co-opt them. But for the purpose of the regulation, we may mention it so that under the regulation for co-opting, we refer that some of the representatives that can be co-opted may include yes, opinion leaders and so on. Just as a way of reminding them that those are also stakeholders.
Civil society organizations.
You are always part of this process.
Yes. Yeah, I think that would be a given. So we can add sub-regulation on who can be co-opted if need be. Then composition of the committees as politicians, it have funding under section 28 on conditional grants. I think 28.2. Read the specific wording. 28.2 mentions something about funding. 28.2 provides that the district environment and natural resource committees shall receive funding from among other sources of funds available to the urban authorities or district councils for performing its function under this act. So to the question from the ministry, who are the holders of this bag, actually the expectation is that the conditional grant will be one of the sources, and the conditional grant in section 29 of the act will be one of the sources. And the section says, Parliament shall each financial year appropriate funds for the purpose of financing government, environment, and natural resource committees and natural resources programs in the districts, cities, municipal, town councils, and sub-counties. The minister shall annually issue guidelines indicating how the funds referred to in subsection 1 shall be shared among the sectors The fund referred to in subsection 1 shall be sent directly to the district, city, municipal, and town councils and sub-counties. Yeah, so Regulation 29 provides for some of the sources of funding as the conditional grants. Yeah, but as we earlier mentioned, we think also the money from NEF can support that process. The schedule on a template for monitoring that is noted, we shall include it. Then gender consideration, every time there is a preset list of a committee, you can no longer discuss gender because people see it by virtue of their offices. So you only wish the representation of gender in those positions is taken into account. Because if they say the executive director of Agnet will be a member, you cannot dictate the gender
to drop.
Yes.
Because he's a man.
So whoever has that office shows up. Yeah, and we are right now, I think the past cabinet had 70 or 80% female representation. So when they say ministers, by default, you would find it's a female representing. But on another day, if the cabinet is full of men, you can't start saying we also need gender balance in the ministers that will come. Yet the pool has only one gender. So I think we can only pray that the holders of the offices are balanced.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that all?
No, there are a few which I'm going to run through quickly now. Mention the management of the grant, and that one I've spoken to. Removal from office of the members. It's provided for in Regulation 9, and as was ably stated, because they hold offices by virtue of their appointments, their removal is a bit tricky, but we thought there are circumstances that can merit removal. And when you look at Regulation 9, all of them are actually criminal or mental related, like abuse of office, incompetence, failure to attend 3 consecutive meetings, misconduct or misbehavior to the detriment of the committee, failure to perform duties. So just because they are members of the committee by default, we think, as you mentioned, it's a very debatable position, but there should be circumstances where, as a committee, you can, as you saw, for example, the last time with Mr. Honorable Zaki and the Commission of Parliament, where they thought, much as he was being sent by his party, the commission and what is expected of commissioners, thought he can no longer be one of them, even when he was the designated one from his party, because it's the one that has the mandate to send someone. So that's what we were trying to coin here. Whereas, for example, I think it's you who mentioned the example of an MP who would be conflicted in a matter and want to stagnate the operations of the committee because he wants it to take a certain direction. If that happens over time, do we continue working with such a person on the committee, knowing he's really holding back progress?
But Muhindo, maybe you may need another part of conflict of interest now that you are talking about it. How do we handle conflict of interest? Is it covered?
Yes,
do we
it's
use
covered.
Existing laws on
Conflict of
interest for public
We make a
servants?
provision for conflict of interest, and also in the Act, there is a schedule that speaks to the committees, which has a conflict of interest, where we are saying, if you're conflicted, you recuse yourself.
Okay.
Yeah. that issue. But I'm also looking at, I don't know if it would be legal. Because for someone to come to parliament to hold certain office, they're normally vetted. We can say we have 6 MPs in a district. We can have prior vetting before they go to the committees of their history of performance. They can be present on the committee, but limited on participation. Because when you say recusing someone of a certain thing, but we need to really do some vetting.
Okay, I know Muhindo, have you finished? Because
No,
you have a
I have
presentation
a
to
few,
make.
but my colleague
Okay.
seems to have
Yeah.
an addition to make.
Thank you, moderator. Like the moderator, sorry, the presenter, you talked about the removal and you said it is debatable.
Yeah.
I think as lawyers, we're going to sit back
Yeah.
and really see that, draw that line so that there's no conflict with the mother law.
Yeah.
In that, maybe we can also look at suspension instead of removal.
Exactly.
Because the person still has the office.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, maybe we are going to debate it
Yeah.
in that way.
I want to associate myself to that view, because you're going to put those districts in a very difficult situation. People will sue them for doing what you're proposing. So we need to know which disease we are trying to prevent by having that particular regulation. Okay.
Yes, so on scope and mandate, that one is provided for in section 28 of the Act under functions of the regulation. So whatever is in those functions is what the scope of their mandate is, and that's why we just put them in the regulation verbatim. The functions of the committee for those. Oh, I think it's Anthony who asked how these committees are now going to relate with other acts and regulation, other acts of parliament that relate to the environment, because this act is the principal act on environment management. Other activities like wetlands, riverbanks, and so many other resources, forests, wildlife. The presumption is that the work of these committees extends to engaging with those other resources within the jurisdiction of the district. Yeah, so it's not a contradiction, but a complementary process.
Okay.
Yeah. And the last two, quorum. Do we have a percentage or a number? That's something we can discuss, but we were trying to find a safe and convenient way. I think we had it in our last consultation, where the district environment and district natural resource officers were saying what they think is workable. Once you give them a number, they are able to mobilize even the technical officers. We have about 4 or 5 technical officers, then 3 other politicians, and you're good to go.
And
But
that's
if you give
where
a percentage, that number may increase and they lose control of those that can be readily reachable. I know it has its limitations in terms of the quality of representation, but the bigger problem is the ability to at least convene. Yeah, we can discuss quality after we have at least had something substandard. But
just like the other one, I think you may need to reflect on it. What's the spirit of having quorum?
Quorum, it's to legally, quorum is a number of a committee of representation on the committee that can make legally binding decisions.
But okay. But
So-
also no people can abuse numbers, because all I
Yes.
have to do, I have to mobilize fellow technical people. You said you want 10 or 8, the technical people are 6. I get 2 more and we make a decision, and they abuse that. So you may need to have a balance, but reflect on it. The final one?
The last one was, I think it's what was answered by Mr. Nduga. on a linkage between the district reports and the national reports. The process has been very complex. Districts write every 2 years. Districts write every 5 years, I think, and NEMA reports every 2 years. So in the we miss one cycle. Hello?
No, it's every 2 years. We prepare we are required to prepare the national every 2 years, then the local government one every 2 years as well. The
Yes,
5 years is the environment action plan.
Okay.
So
So
that has been
what he was suggesting is for the district ones to inform the national one, so that the cycle is that once the districts have reported, we use that as the raw information to inform the national state of environment report. Is that what the guidelines are pushing for, or how are you trying to structure it? Maybe you can inform the meeting.
Yes, thank you very much. The spirit, of course, is the same, to ensure that as provided by the law, because it is statutory and it has been stated that the district or urban authority environment set of environment reports are supposed to inform the preparation of the national. And remember, by style and structure, when we're preparing the national, we are relying more on secondary data that has been collected either at MDA level or at district level. So the guidelines are speaking to that. Nothing is changing, but rather we are trying to emphasize the requirement as stated by the law.
All right. Thank you, Peter.
So with that, I think we can wrap up on the regulations and go to the next 3 slides, which I had thought the manager would present, but she said I can proceed with them. Please go to the next. Yes. So what are the
NEMA government?
Yes.
I think I heard you say that funding or facilitation could may come from the National Environment Grant. I mean, the ENR grant. Okay, as far as I know,
states that
it should come from
yeah
there.
in regulation 28.2 and also regulation 29 of the act. Sorry, section 28.2 and section 29 of the National Environment Act.
Wow, because when I see the guidance given, how the money is being distributed, the 30 going to wetlands management like that,
Yeah.
I don't see this component here coming.
Actually, the act categorically states that the minister shall annually issue that guidance. Section 29, I think.
That's fine. It's just that I think it's something that hasn't really been considered because it's not there even in the one being reviewed for this next financial year. Maybe I'll put it forward.
Is it still being reviewed? It has been.
Not yet concluded on the
Then
percentage.
it's good timing.
But the regulations are not yet ready.
No, the act already speaks to it, so you can use the act.
Okay, for those who don't work for government, wetland usually gets a big share at the district than forestry. So the minister, to avoid that, has to come up with a regulation every year on which sector should get what. And that will be sorted. The way we review or amend our taxation laws every year. So it's a huge task that the act gave the minister. All right, can you present these slides, please?
Yes.
On the roadmap.
So in terms of the next steps, we are planning to hold a national consultation in June. And we think this is going to be like the final drafting session because we've held consultations with different districts, selected districts in the West and in the Central. So this one shall have different stakeholders, but at national level. And after that, the next slide, please, the next slide will now be consolidating whatever has come from that national consultation and coming up with a final draft. And we think that can be done in July. As you saw, the other one is in June. Then in July, we have the core team sitting to draft and make sure we produce a final version of the regulation by end of July. And then in August, you can go to the next slide. We now present that final version to those who have a mandate to approve it. While it will not be coming to them for approval purpose, but we think it will be good practice for us to bring to their attention what this document is. So if either the ministry or the Attorney General's chambers or NEMA top management have any query, they raise it at this point before we start the approval process. Because when it goes to them for approval, they defer or reject if they find those queries. But once they have given us feedback, we can be able to address those things at this stage so that when we go to them as technical bodies for approval, we shall have addressed any concerns they have with the document. And after that, I was thinking the next 4 months, go to the next slide. The next 4 months will be for approval process. And this process has 4 stages: NEMA top management, NEMA board, and then we send it to the ministry, and the ministry sends it to Attorney General's chambers. And if it's cleared, then they send it to the Ministry of Finance, who, after they've cleared, we gazette. We think ambitiously it can be done in 4 months, that approval process. The first 2 stages, we have more control as NEMA, but the last 2, the third one has 2 levels involved in it, the Ministry of Water and Attorney General's chambers. So if all goes well, we can have it by December. And it's unfortunate that while we may have some resources, they are not enough for the entire process, but we are optimistic that Emily and WWF will come in handy to complement the little that we have, to see that at least the other 3 stages are done on schedule. In June, we hold the national consultation. In July, we use July to incorporate the comments and come up with a clean draft. And then in August, we engage the entities that have mandate to approve. As you can see, go to the previous slide, the ones that are at this level are the ones at the next level. But here we would organize a meeting, a day's meeting or 2 days meeting, depending on how much time they need. We share it with them in advance, and then we get their input as a key stakeholders, and not to just take it to them for approval when they've never seen it or had their input as key stakeholders. Yeah, so it's the same. Once we've engaged them here, when we come for approval at the next stage, level 4, they will only be looking out for, did the feedback we gave get integrated or it wasn't? And once that is in, then the approval becomes faster. Yeah, so those are the 4 steps on the roadmap, and we can now receive any comments or questions on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Muhindo. On this, are you happy with the roadmap? Is it feasible? Do you see opportunities for participating? As I think the spirit of you sharing the roadmap is for people to identify where they can make a contribution, at what point. And if you also want to support, he has already indicated that they are not doing so well. If your organization can chip in, as we call it here, they will be very glad. Triachira, you can be an ally in this too. Any comments?
Thank you. Maybe just to comment on the last 2 parts of the roadmap, that the submission to Ministry of Finance should be done simultaneously when you're submitting to the Attorney General's chambers, so that, because they only clear the parts that are to do with funding. Yeah. So if you can get that there's no delay, because even when they come to Attorney General's chambers, the recommendation is okay, maybe we are done, send them back to finance. But if you're getting the finance clearance and it comes through even before maybe Aegis Chambers has concluded, then it would be easy to conclude and send them out. So because of that time crunch that you're talking about, my recommendation would be that they're submitted simultaneously to both ministries.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other comment?
Thank you so much, James and the team. I find the roadmap very good, but also quite ambitious. Sometimes I want to be as realistic as possible as someone who has been involved in some of these things. Some of the colleagues in the room that participated in when we were doing the regulations for the carbon markets, you know the hurdles that we faced. Every time we'd step forward, we'd hit a wall. So two things. I would like to suggest that, and I like the power that my sister Eunice gave you, be the officer to always follow up through. As I've said, is where you have control, but you have to continue following wherever the document is placed, because I mean there are really many things that are happening. So if you can assure us that we count on you, that even when you have submitted a document, you will have to follow through. That is one. Two, I would like to request you to leverage the energy that is within civil society, because time and again my experience is twofold, that in most cases something to move, it needs to be having a lot of talkability. You know, there's people are talking about it, you know, everywhere you go. The officers, some of us who could be having direct contacts with people who make decisions. Also, when you meet them, we whisper to them that, there's this thing we are working on, the urgency. Some of us, why you have built a very strong, robust climate movement, that we are showing what is happening on the ground. And sometimes the decision makers want to respond when they feel the pressure is coming from the ground. So leverage the power of civil society, but also the people who are going to, the people who need these committees to be in place, and from the district need to have the voices. And to that extent, I think that going forward, if it is agreeable, maybe we may need to a little bit be more unconventional by, maybe once in a while, organize maybe spaces, Twitter spaces, to have conversation around this. It's not just a boardroom issue, but it's out there, and we say that we actually need these committees to come in place so that the general public and the population is involved, because it's going to help us to respond to environmental management. Thank you.
Okay, I think Turiachira and all of you who are in civil society organization, this is your Lubimbi, your task. I think you are open for this to go beyond this room. Yeah, I'm trying to protect my people who work in government. Please pick it up and popularize it. Robert, let's put our hands together for Muhindo, unless you have something more. I know it's burning. Buganda government. Is it a government or a traditional institution?
Just to add on to what my colleague was saying, as also NEMA, as we are building the noise for this, we should also start identifying the MPs elect who are for this. As we are making noise, we tag them along. Yeah.
Good noise. Constructive noise. Robert, I saw you here. Are you consulting NEMA? We want to agree on how to close. Okay, fine. You'll do this at lunchtime. Let's put our hands together for every participant here for having deliberated. Give us the next steps and close. Robert and the team that has organized this from my side, thank you very much for your very active participation. And I look forward to the regulations in December towards Christmas.
Thank you so much. Please clap for our moderator. Thank you so much, Dr. Vyakagava, for moderating this session. We've met the target for this meeting. I guess you all agree with me. I hope you've all had your expectations covered. You know now the stakeholders. You've known the status of the regulations. You've known the roadmap from here where we are starting from and where we are ending. Which are the expectations? I know that you've all been covered in that regard. So our next steps are very simple. From what has been shared in this meeting, of course, we shall now continue to engage with NEMA on how we can have a final draft. And when we have that final draft of the regulation, then we start preparations for the national consultations. Of course, additional consultations to broaden those consultations, taking into consideration of the different stakeholders that you've highlighted. And then we shall look forward to having these final regulations come out and popularize them at a later stage. So immediate is having the draft worked on and also extend the consultations. Yeah, thank you all. I want to thank you for your participation. Thank you for honoring our invitation. Let's keep engaging because it's like we're... Oh, so I have been reminded we are going to get a group photo. I don't know the people that are taking the photo will guide us from where. So with that, let me invite Robert to do the concluding remarks. And then...
Thank you so much, Christine. Can you give a round of applause? So we are starting a journey which is involving finalizing legal documents. And I'm happy that we are still alive. We have been in this journey with a number of you, and we thank God for that. As we break for lunch, I would just want to say that we will be making a modest facilitation to each of you, but there is a form which you have to fill. And this form, it's now the policy of Emily. If you exceed a certain threshold, we withhold. So we will kindly request you to share us, to fill that form with your team. And if you don't want that refund, you are free to leave it. And we extend it to the project to also do additional project work. As you know, funds not used are integrated in other project activities. But that is so cautious for our work. And also to say that we will be having a talk with some of the civil society network heads. I think after lunch, we will kindly request those of you who can remain around. We have to have a discussion on the priority emerging environment advocacy issues as we frame the 3-year advocacy campaign, which will mirror the hubs. As you have heard from Christine, there are hubs down WWF works through. And then we want to see areas of convergence from the, you see, the national CSO networks with the issues coming from the ground to see if we are talking the same things or the national CSO hubs have their own agenda and the grassroots have their other agenda. So that said, we will be communicating soon about when we'll have that engagement to formalize our advocacy issues and come up with clear campaigns. But also we have another project on forests. I heard someone was saying there are limited consultations on NDC. So this project is going to support forests and NDCs related work. And as I speak, next week we will be having an engagement. We have been talking to the colleagues in the other part of the ministry to ensure that we can harmonize. So once that is done, we will make sure that these invitations come out before, and then you will be engaged. Just be rest assured. So thank you so much, and we wish you a very good afternoon, and the journey masses back to wherever we came from. I'm told the photo is going to be down, and a good afternoon. Yes, lunch is provided. Where? Okay, that in the main restaurant. But let's get down for the group photo, please. And it's a good afternoon from us.